If you clicked on this video, you're probably looking for a solution for your blending brushes. Well, let me tell you, I think I found a solution that's going to work in this small space. If you haven't seen my scrapbooking room, I will list the full tour down in the description box below. But for today, let's take a look at how I am going to store my blending brush collection. Let me take you to that small corner in my space and where I store currently my blending brushes and why this doesn't work. Now, it probably doesn't work because I have a lot of blending brushes. I purchased these little containers on Etsy. I actually put them on a little spinning kind of platform. I bought that at the dollar store. But do you hear this? That shaking noise? When I first moved into my scrapbooking room, there was construction happening at the back, and this, combined with this, was driving me a little crazy. So the noise of them was one thing. Another reason why this doesn't work, and again, it's because I have a small little shelf that I'm trying to consolidate all my brushes on. I have two of these little caddies if you want, but do you see this here? There's bleeding from the other brushes, and I really don't like that. I want to try and keep my colors separated, and because I have to squeeze them in here, it doesn't work. So what do you do in a small space when you don't have a lot of real estate to map this out on a desk or on a counter? Well, you turn to your wall. This is the featured wall in my scrapbooking room. I love the flowers. I love the frames. So naturally I thought, okay, let's kind of move over. Do you see where my little blending brushes are hanging out? On the windowsill, which is not a great thing. After measuring this space, I know that I can add a 16 by 20 frame in this location. It's going to be right above all of my things that I have on my desk. I decided to go thrift shopping. Let me show you what I brought home. All right, let's take a look at the frame that I found at the thrift store and why I picked this particular one. Now, you're really only looking for the frame, and I'll get to that in a moment. This one here was only $9, and you'll see why. It's in sad, sad shape. Let me turn this over, and it's coming apart because it's glued together. I really only want this frame right here. This is what the back looks like. It's been taped together with Scotch tape, and that's why it was only $9. The frame itself is what I'm really after. So this is going to need a little bit of DIY and TLC. So let me pull this backing off. Now, if you're lucky, the backing is going to be MDF. And if you're not, it's going to be this plastic thing, or this cardboard thing, I should say. And I can't use this for what I want to do. So let me just take this out of the way, take this out of the way. Now the tricky part is always dealing with the glass. So let me take the glass out of the way. Now that I've taken away the glass, the backing, and everything, I'm left with a frame. And what I'm noticing is, you know, these little pieces that hold the frame in, they're very, very brittle. So again, there's going to be a little bit of DIY and TLC to make this work. So let's flip this over. This frame is going to serve as an area where I'm going to house all of my brushes. And I want it to look like they're hanging directly on the wall, but I don't want to damage my wall. So this is what I'm going to do. I went to Rona, one of our local lumber places here, and I bought myself a piece of MDF board. You can buy these very inexpensively. You can even get them cut right then and there for free. I think the first 5 cuts are free. So what I did is I painted this the exact same color as my wall. So if I damage anything, I'm damaging this, not my wall, and this is a lot easier to fix than repainting the entire room. Now, if I decide to change my mind, I can flip this over and I can paint this whatever color I want. So let me just sneak this underneath. So this is what it's going to look like. It's going to give you the illusion that I'm hanging my brushes directly on my wall because it's painted the same color and they're all going to be framed in. Of course, we're going to paint this white, but before I do that, I want to show you very quickly how I'm going to put my brushes in here and why I picked this size frame. Now these are standard size brushes, and when I started collecting these, I was collecting them by color, and I would do 2 of each color, one for the light shades and one for the dark shades. And I'm thinking that that's going to look really nice against my wall. It's going to have a nice little featured if you want. But I also have to be mindful of how many brushes I want to add and do they all fit. The opening of this frame will allow me to add 3 rows. And then it'll be a case of kind of condensing them all in to see how they all fit. Before I move on, I have a few things that I have to do. First, I want to paint this white. And secondly, before I arrange all of my blending brushes, I'm going to give them all a bath. I started to wash these and I thought you might be interested in seeing how that was done. So let's go outside and paint this frame. For this next step, you're going to have to go outside, or if you have an area where you can spray some paint on here. Now this is definitely an old frame, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lightly sand some of the dust off and dirt. That's all I'm sanding off. I'm not expecting to paint this perfectly because I know that once it's white, I'm going to reveal some of this gold. So let me go ahead and sand a little bit of this grunge off, and then we'll spray the frame. I have a little box to try and contain the overspray even though I'm outside. And I'm just going to spray it with like whatever I found in the garage, to be honest with you. This is a semi-gloss. I would recommend going with something similar. I don't want a high sheen on this, so we're going to go ahead and try and spray it. There is a little bit of a wind, so we're going to try and contain that in the box as much as possible. I'm going to give it a few coats. I'm going to let it dry in between. I just want to cover up the black. That's what I'm more concerned about, but I am going to also reveal some of that gold. All right, it's bath time for these brushes. Now I just have a paper towel. This is a reusable container. And this here is a little scrubbing silicone mat. You can get these at the dollar store and they work really, really well. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add some water in here, lukewarm, and I'm going to use a gentle dish soap. Because these are brushes, think of these as makeup brushes. You wouldn't use something too harsh on your makeup brushes, so think of those in the same manner. So let me get some water in here, a little bit of soap, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to clean them with this little scrubbing mat. So let's take one of these brushes, and look, this is about the amount of soap I put in here, just a little squeeze. Let's take one of these brushes that is very saturated with ink. So I'm going to go in, and the water here is maybe a little bit warmer than lukewarm. Do you see how just doing this to your brush really gets that ink all the way down at the bottom, and then you rub it on this little silicone mat. Now this is a very dark blue, but you can see already that it's changing. Let me go rinse it by the sink here and I'll show you the second pass. Now you can see here that it is coming out, and if I go back into this stain water, let's take a look here. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to try and rub some of it off. Now, to be honest with you, I think doing this at the bottom of your sink and letting some water run against it would probably do a better job, but I just wanted to show you kind of the steps into cleaning these brushes. So I'm going to do that for all of my brushes. Instead of putting them in a little bath of water, I'm going to put them at the bottom of my sink. I'm going to do the same thing though. I am going to rinse them out and I'm going to rub them on this little silicone mat. I'm going to rinse them in between. I'm going to hang them to dry and then I'll come back and show you the results. In the spirit of keeping it real, this is the bottom of my sink. I still have my little cleaning solution and I still have my brush, but I'm going to turn on the water just a little bit. And I am going to rub my finger to get most of the ink out. Now I'm using this dark blue because this is the one that's going to possibly wow you the most. So do you see here, as I'm running my little brush, I'm spreading the bristles and I'm getting that ink out of here. Now you can add the soap directly to your brush if you want, and you can rub that in. And then you can use the little scrubbing pad. And I think that doing this in your sink is probably the better solution. Sometimes when we want to show cleaning solution or storage solution, we try and do it in a mock type of studio, but this is real life. Real life, I'm rinsing out all of the color. You can see here, this is not blue from my little silicone mat, it's blue from my brush. And I think that this is going to work for me. I have several brushes that I have to do this with. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run water on them. A little bit of warmer water seems to do the trick. But as I'm squeezing the water out, I want that water to become white or clear. I'm not sure if I'll achieve that with this dark blue, but I'm surely going to give it a try. So let me get busy. I have tons of brushes to clean, but this inside the bottom of your sink, a little bit of soap, a little bit of elbow grease. I really do feel that these are going to come back to life. Here we have the brushes. They've all been washed. So this is their first big bath if you want. It's a little wet out here. And I want to show you the method behind hanging them off a dish towel or hanging them off something so that they don't touch the bottom. So if you were to put them down straight, to me, the bristles are wet. They could get damaged or squished. So I like to give them a little resting spot. And I want to draw your attention to what's happening. So they are drying right now. See how clean that is? That's pretty clean. But see all of the ink that is actually coming out of the brush. If I was to dry them this way, all of that ink would stay in the brush and it would kind of defeat the purpose. So I like to hang them off. I give them a little resting spot so that I'm not damaging the bristle. Like take a look at this one. It's pretty much all clean. Now it's completely saturated. It's completely wet. But look at this here. This is coming out as I'm hanging it out to dry. So let's take a look at darker colors. So this one here is the purple. And I do have more. So I have to decide, do I want to give this a second go and clean them completely? Or am I okay with this? To be honest with you, I've only washed my brushes twice and I've had them for over 5 years. If you use your brushes and use the same color families, I don't think you need to wash them all the time. But see here, this is all coming out of those brushes. This was that very, very dark blue. I think we had a good little bath. What about this one here? This one here was another, it was that teal one that I started with. So this is where they're going to live until they are completely dry. So I'll give them a couple of hours, but I'm going to go back outside and take a look at how my frame is going. All right, let's take a look at this frame. I'm going to have to kind of move it around. I'm probably going to flip it around too. So if you see that, so it's kind of exposing the areas that I've missed. So I'm going to give it another spray and I think we'll be ready for the next step. Let's get to the next phase of this DIY. So the next thing I want to show you is my secret weapon if you want. So these are command hooks and I really like them because A, they're clear, and B, you can slide your brush in and it holds it perfectly. So I really, really like that. I also like that the fact they're command hooks, I can actually pull on this little tab here and readjust if I need to. If you are working with a frame that has an opening of 16 by 20, you can actually put 24 brushes. And I think that that's plenty to kind of have a brush for every color family, or even two in my case. So the easiest way I found to do this, and believe me, it took some time. I don't know about you, but measuring everything and trying to get it on perfect is not something that I enjoy doing, but I know that I want it to be straight when I'm done. And I found that using these T-rulers, and I got these on Amazon, I think you get 3 for like $5, was the perfect thing. So it took me a while to get here, I'm not going to lie. And if, again, you're starting from a 16 by 20, and if you start your first hook at 1 1/4, and then you take your ruler and you use the edge of your backer board and you lay it down and you add your next one, they will line up and they will fit perfectly. So my ruler fits in between each of the hooks, giving it enough space so that I can move on. And when I get to the end, here, I am at 1 3/8. I can live with that. So you could probably maybe do it better, but I found that this worked really, really nicely. So the next thing that I have to do, so now I know that these are good, like the distance is good, and I know that I want to go 3 deep. So let me just move this up. I know that I want to go 3 deep, so I'm going to put my brush in, and I'm going to bring my next brush. I am going to put it in the clamp, and I'm going to position it on my board. Now, before I adhere this next row in, I want to do the same thing with my third row. So I'm going to clip that in, and I'm going to put it down. And you can see here, hopefully, let me move that over. You can see here that I have enough room for 3 rows. So 3 by 8 is 24. And I think that that's going to work really, really nicely. So let me show you how we can do this without too much measuring. So we know that I can't go higher than this. So I'm going to sneak my T-ruler. And I am going to butt this up. I'm going to do that again with the bottom one and make sure that I'm giving myself enough space so I can see here that I can move this up. It's hard to see because A, they're clear, and B, you have a round side and a flat side. But once you have your first row done, it's actually pretty easy. So let me get these down, and we'll move to the last and final step, which is bringing that frame back in, giving it a little bit of a sand, and hanging that on the wall. For the next row, I am going to remove this, and I'm being mindful not to pull on it too much because they do say to kind of let them sit and kind of really push them in for about half an hour or so. So I am mindful of that. But what I'm hoping is that I can sneak my ruler in and I can just go and do my row. So let's do these. So another tip here, you're probably supposed to put this on the wall and this on the hook, but I didn't want to see the 3M with the pull. I know I have to do that. So I'm going to adhere them to the back of my little hooks so that when it's on my board, I don't see the label. The other thing that's super important, depending on where you're putting your board, all of my brushes are going to slide in from the left. And it's just the way that it's going to be on my wall, and it works well. So make sure you always have your opening on the right side. So we're going to start with the first one in the second row. And my idea is that I'm going to put my ruler in between and I'm going to add my little hook. I'm not going to push in too far so that I can see, and I have to hold it. And that looks pretty darn good. So then it's just a case of moving my ruler over. I'm going to do this for the next 2 rows. But I just wanted to show you that if you're like me and you don't like to measure, I think this is an easy way to do it. So the other thing that I can do is I can cross-reference with my other T-ruler. So I can go right in and put them all in. I think that this is going to be easy and I know they're going to be straight. All right, so you can see here that this was pretty easy to do my rows. So I'm going to move that up. Okay, so we're going to add the last row. And again, what's super important, make sure that your brush is all the way down on the hook because they will kind of drop down once they're placed in that frame. And I'm going to add my first one here just to make sure, and it looks good. I want to make sure my ruler is nice and square. So I'm going to take this one out and we're going to repeat the process and adhere down our last row. So we're going to add our last one, and it does take a bit of time, but I think my little low-tech solution with my 2 T-rulers helped quite a bit for this process. And now I'm just going to push them in. I'm going to let them kind of adhere to the backer board that I have them on. And I'm going to go get the frame and see if we can sand it. I'm not sure if it's ready or not. It's been really humid outside these past couple of days, but I think we're ready to sand that frame. So this is my white frame that's going to go around this. And can you see how nice that's going to look? And see, I was actually hoping to see a little bit more of the gold, but you know what? I think it'll be fine. It's still a little bit tacky, so I'm not sure if that's the issue. I'm going to give it a little light dusting. So I was definitely hoping to see a little bit more of that gold. I guess I could put some gilding, or I could, brush on some gold. So you can see that this project takes a little bit of time, especially if you're doing it in my weather. So the weather this week has been really wet and humid, so it's taken a long time for everything to dry and even for these little guys to adhere down. Before I add all of the brushes, I wanted to show you what I was trying to achieve. So do you see how, even though I have a really big frame, so let me zoom in a little bit on it, even though that frame is quite big, because I painted the backer board the same color of my wall, and I've got white frames, I don't think that you have too much visual clutter. I'm really liking how this is turning out. Now, the only thing I have to do is add all of my brushes on the hooks. And again, no visual clutter because they are clear. I'm going to let them dry just about an hour or so, and then I'm going to add all of my brushes. Here we have our completed frame. I love the way this turned out. So I've got my wall color here, and I have my backer board, which is MDF. All my little hooks and all of my brushes have been placed in here. And they've all been clean, they've all been hung, they're ready for action. You can see that I've already started using some. But what I like about this system here is that I can just click off my brush, use it on my project, and then slide it back in. And it's that easy. I didn't have to alter these, I didn't have to do anything. Probably the longest part is to make sure that they're all nice and straight, but I really do feel that this is going to be a good system for me. Now I have a spot for all of my brushes, and it kind of looks good too. Let me know if you think this is a solution that might work in your crafty space. If you're interested in seeing the complete tour of my crafty space, click this video right here. See you there.